amazing day today is, and it's great to see so many friends here in the audience. As I'm sure you can imagine, we've had to make several pivots this week for today's program, but we're excited where we've landed. We have an amazing event planned this morning, and we thank you all for being here and being part of it. Before we get started, though, if you could please stand, we're going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's the way to get everybody quiet. Great. On your chair, there's our program. A listing of all of our sponsors have been running on the screens throughout this morning, and you'll find them all listed in the program. But I would like to especially highlight a few of our sponsors in particular. Our platinum sponsors, Total Wine and More, the Universities of Shady Grove, our gold sponsors, Adventist Healthcare, Etheridge, Quinn, Kemp, Rowan, and Hartinger, Interfaith Works, yes, Lurch Early Brewer, Montgomery College, Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, along with our silver sponsors and nonprofit supporters who are listed in the programs. Thank you all for being sponsors and for being supporting of this event. Okay, now, it's everyone's favorite part of the program, the introduction of all of our dedicated elected officials in the room. And of course, we're going to do that, but we're going to do it just a little bit differently this year, or at least how we've done it in the years past. Right now, I'd like to invite every elected official in the room to line up over here to my right. That means you guys have to come up. And I'm going to wait till they make their way over here to give you the directions. Okay, since we're getting some over here, I'm going to start these is the directions on what we're going to do. So as you come up on the stage, you're going to take the microphone. Steve has the microphone over there. And you're going to give your name, your title, and one or two words that you have on your mind for today as we gather here for the 2023 Committee for Montgomery Legislative Breakfast. I also asked our guests, for the sake of time, to do one clap after each introduction. So I'm going to give you an example of how this morning's going to go. So Shannon Babe Thomas, Executive Director, Community Bridges, energized and excited. Yeah, I think you guys got it. Super easy. And that way we can get through everyone and everyone has an opportunity to introduce themselves. All right, so let's get started.
Good morning. Andrew Friedson, Montgomery County Council President. Coffee.
Good morning. Marilyn Balcom, Council Member for District 2. Community.
Good morning. I'm Ann Kaiser from the House of Delegates, District 14, and I'm just proud to introduce the head of our Montgomery County delegation. Here you go.
Good morning. Julie Polakovich-Carr, State Delegate for District 17. I don't know, it's too early to have words on my mind yet.
I got you.
Good morning. Delegate Jared Solomon from District 18, and I'm going to go with coffee.
Good morning. Delegate Lori Charkoudian, District 20, Community.
Good morning, Kate Stewart, Vice President, Montgomery County Council. Excited.
Good morning, Sidney Katz, Montgomery County Council, District 3. My words are, remember that a community is a family. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Nancy King, Senator from District 39 and also the Senate Majority Leader. And my words for this morning would be transportation funding.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm State Delegate Lily Cheat, representing District 15, which is roughly from Potomac to Poolesville. And the one thing on my mind all the time is let's make Montgomery County more competitive. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Delegate Linda Foley. I'm also from District 15, and the word on my mind this morning is early.
Early. Good morning, Maryland State Delegate David Fraser Hidalgo, and I got nothing.
Brian Feldman, State Senator from District 15. I chair our Senate Education, Energy, Environment Committee, and the word on my mind, because I've got all the commissioners from this municipality, Poolesville. And here comes the Poolesville team right now.
Okay, I owe you. Thank you. Hi there, Jim Brown, President of the Town Commissioners for the amazing town of Poolesville. And my word of the day is 3 words. Poolesville, the playground for Montgomery County.
All right, good morning. Ed Reed, Town of Poolesville Vice President, also a member of the Fair Access. My word for the day is get it done, honor your commitments.
Good morning, friends. Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville. My word is badass.
Good morning, Max Wee. I'm your sheriff here in Montgomery County. I'm not sure really how to follow up with that, but how about service? Let's go with service.
Good morning, Joe Vogel, delegate for Gaithersburg and Rockville, and I'm happy to see so many of you this morning.
Hi, I'm Marissa Valeri. I'm one of the new City of Rockville council members. And my one word that I need all the time, relentless.
Good morning, buenos dias. Carla Silvestre, President of the Board of Education. Support for education. What else?
Good morning, everyone. Lynn Harris, at-large member of the board and this year's vice president. And I'm going to echo my colleague, collaboration around education.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brenda Wolf, and I represent District 5, and I'm going to say early is my word.
You took my word. Good morning, buenos dias. Grace Rivera Oven, Board of Education, District 1. And my word is going to be café con leche. 2 words.
Good morning, Rebecca Smondrowski, Board of Education, District 2, Community.
Good morning, everyone. Julie Yen, Board of Education. My word is joy.
Good morning, good morning. My name is Shebra Evans on the school board, District 4, and my word is networking. So good to see you all. Yeah.
Good morning, Councilmember Dawn Ludke, representing District 7, and my word is arts.
Buenos dias, good people. My name is Gabe Albornoz. I'm one of your at-large members of the council, and my word is health.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Evan Glass, an at-large member of the council, and my word is peace.
Good morning, Judd Ashman, Mayor of Gaithersburg. My word is greatest.
Good morning, I am Jim McNulty. I am the Gaithersburg City Council Vice President, and my word is city.
Good morning, my name is Jameer Hernandez, and I'm a Gaithersburg City Council member, and my word is in.
Good morning, my name is Lisa Henderson. I'm a Gaithersburg City Council member, and my word is the.
And I'm Neil Harris of the Gaithersburg City Council, and my word is world.
My name is John McCarthy, State's Attorney for Montgomery County. My name is love.
I'm Barry Jackson, Rockville City Council, and my word is sleepy.
My name is Kate Fulton, Rockville City Council, and my word is gratitude.
Good morning. My name is Isola Shaw, Rockville City Council, and my words are love, care, and equity.
Good morning. I'm Robin Barr from the town of Somerset. I have 2 words. I'm done. Thank you.
Good morning, Jeffrey Slavin, Mayor, Town of Somerset. My word is effective, which is what the committee for Montgomery is going to be in Annapolis this session.
I'm Mark Elrich, County Executive. 3 words from Elvis Costello: peace, love, and understanding.
Even though I don't have any relationship to Elvis Costello, my name is Dia Costello. I'm the mayor of Glen Echo, and my word is connections.
Good morning, I'm Mark Corman, a state delegate from District 16, and my word is transportation, and I hope the governor heard me.
Good morning, Greg Williams, delegate District 39, and my word is exciting.
Good morning, my name is Tracy Furman. I'm the mayor of the town of Kensington. On behalf of the council, we have a lot of new businesses, so my word is beer.
Hi, good morning. I'm the newest delegate from District 16, Sarah Wallach, and my word is flourishing.
Good morning. My name is Kristen Mink. I represent District 5 on the Montgomery County Council, and my words are one left.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lorianne Sales, at-large representative, and my word is Congress.
Great job, everyone. And the best part of all, I didn't miss any of you. And I didn't mispronounce anybody's names either. Okay, so for this morning's speaker, I'm delighted to introduce our congressman representing Maryland's 6th Congressional District. Please welcome to the stage Congressman David Trone.
Good morning, everybody. And what word should I have? What do you think? How about Senate? Okay, hey, first of all, I want to thank the Committee of Montgomery Counties for the 35th Legislative Breakfast. We see a lot of the faces we had last week in the room. It's Minority Breakfast. We're back. I want to thank the Board of Directors and our co-chair, Shannon Babe Thomas, for the opportunity to be here today. And it's an honor to represent Montgomery County. They asked me today to give you a quick update on the federal status of what's happening. Well, I can sum that up very quickly. In 2023, nothing happened. We wasted an entire year. 0. Okay, we're done with that. Let's go back to 2022. In 2022, Joe Biden had one of the most consequential presidencies ever, the whole way back to probably Lyndon Baines Johnson. He got so much stuff done. So let's talk about what's happening now. That achievements that Joe Biden had are now being implemented. They're being rolled out across our country. For decades, broadband. For decades, Marylanders waited for the politicians to deal with our infrastructure. So Joe Biden passed the Bipartisan Infrastructure and Jobs Act. To rebuild our roads, our bridges, our highways, and create millions of good-paying jobs, good-paying union jobs. Now comes the concern. Now we have government, the Transportation Department, trying to claw back the federal money that we sent to the state to build new infrastructure. New infrastructure, new jobs is being clawed back by Annapolis to pay old bills. So we need this team to stand with us to fight against that, or those jobs won't happen. Those roads like 15, 81, and all over Baltimore will not get built. High-speed internet We think about the lack of high-speed internet, and we often think rural, but it's also our urban deserts. I was in Baltimore last night, and it's certainly a huge issue in downtown Baltimore, but more importantly, it's affordability. If you can't afford it, it doesn't matter. The pandemic illustrated how many families struggle with affordability and internet. 40% of the folks out of my district, 40% of our kids, our children, couldn't get internet to do their education. The mom and dads didn't have it to do their jobs from telework. And it's hurt us in telemedicine and in telemental health. So we need what Joe Biden has brought, the $65 billion to change broadband in America. This is game-changing. It's beginning to roll out. Just like we rolled out electricity and the highway system across our country. This is the third monstrous connectivity effort by the federal government. It's going to be huge. How about affordable housing and living wages? There's no question housing's a big issue in Montgomery County. Maryland has 30 affordable housing units, 30, for every 100 folks that are in the low-income bracket to rent. 30 for 100. The math doesn't work. It's the 10th worst gap in the country. We're number 40. That's not where we want to be. I do want to thank Montgomery County Council for capping the rate increases on rent. Thank you. We're also supportive of President Biden's $175 billion proposal for housing, which includes neighborhood family tax credits, low-income housing tax credits to build new and affordable rental housing. As leaders, we have to meet the moment. But the bottom line is the minimum wage is not enough. How do we not change the minimum wage since 2009? Is that outrageous? It's unacceptable. We've got to get the $15 and move that to $20, a $20 minimum wage, because this perpetuates the historic wage gaps that we have in our women, Black, and Latino communities who are overrepresented in the under $15 area. So in Congress, we fought hard to raise wages, because I know as a business person, your employees, your team deserves fair pay for hard work. How about education? Banning books right here in our state, all over the state. A mental health crisis that's getting worse and worse. 50,000 suicides every year. 135 today, suicides. That's not acceptable, is it? Last year, Joe Biden passed the Safer Communities Act. First time ever, the federal government brought huge resources, $11 billion to mental health. The biggest mental health effort ever in the history of our country. And $3 billion of that is beginning to roll out to our public schools, K through 12. The first time ever we stepped up and helped our public schools. Because we know 20% of our children age 4 to 17 are struggling with depression, struggling with anxiety. And it's on our teachers also, our educators. Everybody together is in this boat, and we need help. As co-chair of the Congressional Mental Health and Substance Use Disorder Caucus, we're fighting every day. Last year we passed 26 bills to the finish line, all bipartisan, to get stuff done. Equally important, we've got to work on tolerance. How about that, everybody? Islamophobia, anti-Semitism. Just last week, we joined with Congressman Raskin announcing a DHS grant of over $500,000 against much-needed education and training to prevent targeted violence against the LGBTQ community. It's been a year since we passed the Inflation Reduction Act. This is a monumental legislation, the biggest piece of legislation ever in our country to fight climate change. Joe Biden got it done. This legislation's created 170,000 clean energy jobs already, 110 billion in clean energy manufacturing investments. The Department of Energy believes that the Inflation Reduction Act will enable the United States to reach 80% clean energy by 2030. That's 6 years off. This is unreal what that act does. So as I close, I want to remind everyone, as a member of Congress, we work for you. We work for you in this room. So as you have problems, your community has problems that you cannot solve, bring them to us. That's what we do. We're about solving problems. We're part of Team Maryland, and we're really part of how we get stuff done in government by working together. If we work together, government can be productive. And we see what's happened the last 12 months when everybody went it alone and nothing got accomplished. So thank you for all you do every day.
Next, we're delighted to have with us this morning Comptroller of the State of Maryland. Please welcome to the stage Comptroller Brooke Learman.
Thank you. Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you. Good morning. It is so wonderful to be back here because I was here on Monday morning at the same time too. I've got the drive down 95. It's easy at this point. I am so delighted to be here. Shannon, thank you for the introduction. I am Brooke Learman. I am so honored and proud to be the 34th Comptroller of the State of Maryland and the first woman to hold this position. Thank you. Thank you. So for those of you who don't know me, I did not wake up one morning as a student at Walt Whitman High School, from where I graduated, and think, 1 year I'll be comptroller. I went off to college. I served as an AmeriCorps Vista at a mentoring organization I helped co-found. I worked on campaigns. I worked on at the Center for American Progress. Went off and became a lawyer, found my way to Baltimore. And while I was in Baltimore, I learned a lot about the importance of state government and supporting our local communities. In fact, my political journey began because of a bus that did not show up to pick me up to take me to work. I then served 2 years as a state delegate representing all the neighborhoods around the water in Baltimore City, where I still live with my family. I have my husband, my 2 school-age children. And I was so thrilled to partner with so many of my Montgomery County colleagues in the House and the Senate over those 8 years to pass important legislation. I then decided to run for comptroller, and that meant going around the state for 2 years to explain to people what on earth the comptroller does. And so, as you all know, it's a job where I now am proud to serve as the elected CFO of the state of Maryland. I serve on numerous financial boards, including, of course, our State Retirement and Pension Board and the Board of Public Works. We have one more meeting left for the Board of Public Works. Next Monday, we have one item on the agenda, which we're going to get done, and also on the Board of Revenue Estimates. And yesterday, we met to adopt our revenue estimates, upon which our state's FY 2025 budget will be based moving forward. And then, of course, the third job of the state comptroller is that I have the distinction of serving as your revenue administrator, which means I sign your tax refunds. So it is wonderful to be here. Now, when I walked into the agency last January, I found a phenomenally dedicated group of 1,100 team members and hopelessly outdated systems. I also found a bat infestation. We got rid of the bats, so we can all work in our offices again. But through conversations and strategic planning, working with our team members across 12 offices around the state, we adopted a new vision. A vision for our agency to be a partner in building a state that's more equitable, more resilient, and more prosperous so that every Marylander can reach their full potential. And we're making that vision a reality through 3 core priorities that I want to share briefly with you today. First, we are focused in the Office of the Comptroller on implementing critical agency-wide improvements to help our state government work better. At the end of the day, that's what we have to do. Make sure that we can modernize our agency, get our tax processing system off of COBOL, make sure that our accounting system for the state of Maryland is no longer the oldest state accounting system in the nation, and use data to drive decision-making. Our second core priority is to reimagine how our resources and expertise can make a positive impact on Maryland families, on Maryland communities, and on our businesses. And as we move into the 21st century, with how we leverage technology, we're reimagining how to make sure our resources are there for you, to help your businesses, to help our nonprofits, to help community groups grow. We've launched 10 advisory councils, including a business advisory council, a women's economic empowerment advisory council, a faith-based economic environment council, to make sure that you can give your feedback to us on how we can be doing our job better, and then so you can communicate to others about what we are doing in the Office of the Comptroller to move Maryland forward. Our third core priority is ensuring Maryland is well-positioned for responsible, long-term economic growth and success. And I want to give you a little preview here, because part of that is making sure that we're leveraging our resources to position the state for that sustainable growth. Whether it's through the Board of Public Works, making sure that we're hitting our minority business enterprise goals and looking at the sustainability and the climate resilience of the money that we're spending, or whether it's through our policy division, where we are excited to announce a brand new report. For the first time ever, in early January, on January 3rd actually, we will be releasing the first ever State of the Economy report for the state of Maryland. And this, thank you, we're excited about it. And this report is based on information that our Bureau of Revenue Estimates has pulled together as the economist for the state of Maryland, and on conversations with you. We had hundreds of conversations with business leaders, community development leaders, and nonprofit leaders all over the state of Maryland, including a huge roundtable discussion here in Montgomery County this summer. Taking that data, we have now a better understanding of what's working and what's not in Maryland. A very short preview. We are seeing migration, of course, from high cost of living to low cost of living areas. We're seeing challenges in the housing market, unlike any that we've seen in recent memory. And we've seen that women between the ages of 25 and 34 are not returning to the workforce in a post-COVID era at the same rates that they are in other states. This is having a really challenging effect on our labor force participation. So all of this and more will be in our report that comes out in early January that I look forward to working with you on in the future as well. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you to the committee for all of your incredible work. I'm excited to be working with you to building a better Maryland in the long run. Thank you all, and happy holidays.
Thank you, Comptroller Learman. Committee for Montgomery, also known as CFM, is a coalition of leaders representing a broad cross-section of Montgomery County: business, labor, education, civic, arts, and community-based organizations. Our mission is to advocate in Annapolis on issues of importance in Montgomery County and the state. Through its membership, CFM represents more than 350,000 Montgomery County voters. CFM shapes its state legislative and budget priorities based on the goal of preserving and strengthening Montgomery County as a place to live, work, and learn. At nearly 1.1 million residents, Montgomery County is the state's largest and most racially and ethnically diverse jurisdiction in Maryland. It is a dynamic, growing, and cultural engine of economic prosperity, and a thriving Maryland needs a thriving Montgomery County. I'm just one of the many board members working hard to represent CFM. At this time, I'd like all the CFM board members to stand and be recognized. Thank you all for your time and dedication to the mission of CFM. Now, I know you want to talk about and learn more about our advocacy work. I'd like to introduce to the stage Ken Nelson, our chair of Issues with Committee for Montgomery.
Good morning, Montgomery County. We ought to be happy for what we've done or about to do in this next session. Thank you, Shannon, for your comments. And today in our program, you'll see some of the issues that we're trying to achieve in this coming session. The first priority that we have is economic development and transportation. If you got here today without any problems, it's because you made a decision that you were going to create a system of transportation that would create an opportunity for people to go to and from work as well as benefit their families. If we're going to grow this county and grow this state, we need better transportation systems, less bottlenecks, and a free ride wherever we can go. So you can clap. I'm not running for office. I'm just trying to keep my jobs. Which brings me to my second point, education and workforce development. As Shannon said, we're one of the most diverse public places in the country. But we're here because we have one of the largest and most diverse public school systems in Maryland. There is also a very strong public higher education presence with Montgomery College and the universities of Shady Grove. Please give them a round of applause because of the transformational work that they do. Our students and educators face widening race and class-based gaps in outcomes, aging facilities, and uneven access to opportunity, all exacerbated by the pandemic. We need a strong, vibrant, creative workforce ready to do the work that needs to be done to expand and be more dynamic than we've ever been. Priority number 3, climate and environment. Increasing greenhouse and gas emissions are the destruction of forests and tree canopy leads to just the worst weather that we can have. Earlier this week, we had snow, and most of us were wondering, where did it come from? Most of us realized when we were growing up that at this time of the year, there would be already 2 or 3 snowstorms. We need to understand that what we do as people, in terms of the decisions that we make, threaten our food and water supply, adversely affect the economy, and reduce the quality of our life. We need to be certain that we treat each other and our planet better than we've had before. Two more points and you can enjoy your breakfast and the great speakers that are coming after me. Number 4, social justice. We need to live in a safe community. There is no need for someone to drive their car and worry about it being hijacked just because they stopped at a traffic light. Based on what we have seen today, there's an inequitable treatment based on race, ethnicity, as well as gender identity, sexual preference, socioeconomic status, disability, age, and religion. We need to be just and righteous with each and every one of us, and it's on us to make it happen. You can't pass it down the road. Number 5, housing affordability. Housing. creates the vibrant and healthy, stable communities. We all grew up in a home that we called home. It didn't matter if it was a shack. It didn't matter if it was the best place in the county. It was a place where memories were created, desires achieved, and most of all, love prevailed. We need places where people can have this same experience that we've had, and we should not delay in any effort to bring about affordable housing to everyone in this community. So, Montgomery County, let's get together, have a great holiday, get together, and in January, let's rock the house. Shannon?
Thank you so much, Ken. And to dive even deeper into our legislative priorities in our program is all of our priorities for the next session. Go ahead into my program. Okay, I am now delighted to introduce our Montgomery County Executive, Mark Elrich.
So thank you all. I'm really happy to be here this morning. And I want to thank Ken before he leaves, if he hasn't already gone. You're here. Your agenda is our agenda. So we're comfortable working in the space that you've laid out, and we're happy to do this work. I want to start by saying, give my appreciation to our congressional delegation, which is able to do as much work as possible given the limitations that we see on Capitol Hill, but we have a good delegation that fights for Maryland and fights for Montgomery County. We have great new state leadership. Governor Moore, General Assembly delegation, our chairs, Senator Kramer, Delegate Palkovich-Carr, Comptroller Learman. It is amazing. And Aruna Miller, who's the Lieutenant Governor. We're in a place we were not in before. I can tell you the difference between working with this administration and the last administration. And it starts with working with. And it makes an enormous difference when you sit down and talk about a shared agenda and how you can move things forward. From the governor to the cabinet secretaries, we're able to get things done, and we're able to plan out a better future for Montgomery County. I want to congratulate the new council president, Andrew Friedson, and Vice President Stewart, and thank outgoing President Glass and the council members for what's been a pretty productive year. So I want to talk a little bit about what we think have been wins and challenges for Montgomery County right now. And I'm going to start with the wins. First big win is having a federal government that's able to provide money now to help us fight climate change. So we're beginning to see federal money come in. We're writing more grant requests, and we will make as much use of that federal money as possible. We have the first microgrids for buses. We're doing major solar work in this county, and we're considered a climate leader, which is better than being just a climate talker. And we've done a lot of work with the governor, and that's, like I said before, I'm really looking forward to that. We just got an announcement from AstraZeneca, already in Montgomery County with a huge footprint, just increased their footprint with a major acquisition. This is growing. Not far from here, the Progress for the Institute for Health Computing from the University of Maryland, bringing graduate level research for the first time to Montgomery County. The first time to Montgomery County from the University of Maryland in AI. And AI is going to be used for some of the other stuff AI does, but most important to us, to aid in scientific discovery and drug discovery, and to aid in patient treatment and tracking patients, and they're working with the University of Maryland Medical System. This is a major advancement for us, and the University of Maryland has said that they believe will be the Silicon Valley of health, and that's something we're looking forward to. When I came into office 5 years ago, we had never achieved our reserve targets of 10%, never being the operative word. We're sitting on 17% reserves right now. We are $400 million over the reserve target because A, we've been careful with what we do with the money, and B, we're actually in a healthy economy. and we've been able to grow our revenues in Montgomery County. So this is exciting to have achieved these goals, but it also means the ability to make some decisions, and you'll see some stuff come out next month about what we think we can do with reserves, because this should not be used for ongoing expenses, but there are some one-time things where we think we can make a big impact. We just concluded our 3rd trade mission. We've been to Taiwan, India, and Vietnam. This is where you see the value of diversity, because we brought over diverse Montgomery County businesses. The ability to bring people from diverse communities to countries overseas and have them talk about why they should be in Montgomery County is enormous. I could have produced all the slick glossies and said lots of nice words about diversity, but to have Indian scientists and Indian business people talk to the Indian community about why you want to be in Montgomery County, and this is a place where you're going to find yourself welcome. That is the best advertising we can ever do, and it is working for us, and I just want you to know that it's a real payback. Anybody wonders what the payback is, it's real, it's tangible, it makes a difference when we go overseas. We're growing in the East County. This was an area that was absolutely stagnant before. We got 3 shopping centers opening over there. Yes, East County fans. Burtonsville Shopping Center reopens this year in '24. The White Oak Center on 29 opens in '24. The progress on New Hampshire Avenue at the Beltway is happening now. And it is big news. Montgomery College is opening an East County campus. And later this morning, I'm heading to Silver Spring for an announcement with United Therapeutics, where we are swapping a very large garage for a new garage, and United Therapeutics is going to build a new scientific expansion on that site, and we're really looking forward to it. This is a big project. And with the help of the council, one of the first things we did is we changed WorkSource Montgomery, and I don't know if Anthony Featherstone's here, but Anthony Featherstone has been the kind of leader we needed, and it radically changed the way WorkSource Montgomery works. We are actually training people who need jobs. And to the point of wages, we understand, Montgomery County's got a high minimum wage. We're going to be at $17 this year. So we're beyond 15. 15 is so 2015. And I agree, the minimum wage has got to get to over 20. That has to. And it's got to get there sooner than later, because people cannot afford to live here. You can't talk about affordable housing and act like it's only a housing price problem. It's a wage problem. Fundamentally, it's a wage problem. The fact that my father and aunt could have a $122 mortgage and afford it on a $4,000 income in 1960 tells you how far away we've gotten from what people can handle today. So we need to deal with both the production of affordable housing and the wage side of the people who need affordable housing. But despite all that, in the last 4 years, we've produced 1,300 affordable units. And that's 2 years of COVID in those 4 years. And we've preserved another 1,850 affordable units that would have been lost. Montgomery County normally loses more affordable units to rising rents than we produce in a year. So for the whole 21st century, whatever small part of that we're in, we've actually been losing ground on affordable housing because we don't produce enough to even replace what we lose, let alone to meet the demand for people moving into Montgomery County now. And you'll see more legislation on affordable housing. I want to thank the council for getting rent stabilization passed. That was a big deal. So we're going to keep working to produce and preserve affordable housing. Now, there are some challenges ahead of us, and we'll be honest about this. The big one is transportation. In the time, since 2008, Virginia made a major decision to give local jurisdictions the authority to raise money because they, like us, were totally dependent on the state for capital funding of transportation projects. And so if counties couldn't raise any money and the state couldn't raise enough money, nobody did anything. And so the local jurisdictions in Virginia got authority. Montgomery County never got that authority. And so when the governor announced zeroing out the capital budget for transportation, I'm down in Mako and talking to the other county executives. Everybody had this epiphany. It's like we're totally dependent on the state. We don't build what they don't fund. And if they don't fund it, we can't build it. It's not a lack of will. It's a lack of legal authority to raise the kind of revenues that they raise in Virginia. Virginia has a taxing system that is radically different than ours. But what it enables them to do is put in hundreds of millions of dollars a year into transportation. If they say they want to build the Silver Line, they build the Silver Line. We put the BRT network into our master plans probably 12 years ago. We haven't built a single inch of true BRT in Montgomery County, not because you didn't have executives that didn't want to do it. You had no capital capacity in these budgets to do it. We need to look at Virginia. For all of you who talk about Virginia and have Virginia envy, it's great to be envious. But what's really great is when you look at what they do and how they do it. So if somebody's eating your lunch, you need to understand how they got your lunch. And that's what we've not been willing to have that conversation. We like saying, look at them, we must be terrible. But we don't look at them and say, how do they do it? We just say, look at them. We've looked at how they do it, and I'm prepared to talk a lot about how they do things that we're not able to do. Because we're either going to move forward and we're going to give ourselves the capacity to be economically competitive, or we're going to spend our life wishing we were economically competitive. But it takes action to put yourself in a position that you need to be in. And that's a challenge we have to face. Governor Moore has to bring the state legislature together to come up with a solution at the state level. We still need state funding, even if the county had authority to do things. Even in Virginia, they get substantial state funding to go with the efforts of local jurisdictions. So we need to figure out how, between them and us, we can create a system where Montgomery County and the rest of the state can build the infrastructure they need to be economically competitive. My goal is to make this place economically competitive. We've done this work in the life sciences. This is our strength. We are driving this in a way that it's never been driven before. If you think about, we were the home of DNA. We let that slip away. We are not going to let AI and health computing slip away. Not making this mistake twice. We're going forward and doing what we need to do. So I want to just conclude by saying it's impossible to talk publicly without discussing what's going on in the Middle East because it's affecting all of us. This is not something that's happening thousands of miles away and we're just going about our lives as if nothing was going on. It is having deep impacts on our community. And people are afraid. People are being attacked. There's rises in hate crimes. I was at a Sikh event the other night, and they were talking about Sikhs being attacked, not because they were Sikhs, because people thought they were Muslims. It's affecting people who aren't even intended to be affected. We're better than that. I have stood on stages in Montgomery County for 16, 17 years now, accompanied by leaders of every religious group in this county. We talk about working together. We talk about supporting each other. We talk about protecting each other from hate and violence, and we talk about building an inclusive community where we all work together. We have traditions of interfaith work in this county that are really strong, and they speak to our best angels. We need not to descend into the worst of us. It is tempting. Anger is a brutal tool, and it blinds people to where they need to be and what they need to do. We're going to continue to lead this county in a way that encourages people to work together, stand together, and build a stronger community together. If we can't do that, none of the rest of this is going to matter. It's going to impact our schools. It's going to impact our workplaces. It's going to impact basic decisions that people make, whether they even feel safe to go outside and walk around, whether you're wearing a yarmulke, a hijab, or a Sikh scarf. We can't go there. I'm not going to let us go there. I'm going to work with people to make sure we don't go there. I'm not going to stand by silently when these events happen. So I ask you, I implore you, speak out, be clear, and call on everybody to be the best human beings we can be, not the worst human beings we can be. We've seen that. Thank you all very much.
Okay. Next, I'd like to welcome to this stage our County Council President, Andrew Friedson.
I'm a hugger. Good morning. I'm Andrew Friedson. I have the privilege and honor of serving this year as the president of the Montgomery County Council. I want to thank you, Shannon, for that kind introduction, and thanks to Marjorie Goldman, Steve Simon, Vicki Leonard, Ken Nelson, and the entire Committee for Montgomery Board for everything that you do to bring all of us together each and every year from every corner of our county. I want to take a moment to recognize my council colleagues. You heard their one word or multiple words earlier, but Council Vice President Kate Stewart, Council Members Gabe Albernaz, Marilyn Balcom, Evan Glass, Natalie Fanny Gonzalez, Will Jawando, Sydney Katz, Dawn Lukey, Kristen Mink, and Lorianne Sales. Thank you so much for all that you do for our diverse and inclusive community and for being terrific and tremendous partners. Seeing so many civic leaders gathered here today makes me so proud to call Montgomery County home. I'm deeply humbled to be part of a coalition of business, nonprofit, labor, and faith leaders committed to moving Montgomery County and Maryland forward. I'm excited to be in this new role as the council president this year and to share a little bit about what we've achieved during the last year, where we're headed, and how we can work together and partner together with each of you in order to get there. We just completed our first year as an 11-member female majority and I'm proud of the progress that this 20th council has made, united around some key priorities. We continue to tackle the housing crisis, implemented measures for a sustainable, greener future, bolstered support for our local businesses, grew our biohealth sector, advanced safer roads, protected our healthcare commitments for our public employees and retirees, and maintained our long-running AAA bond rating. In 2024, we will continue to build on these efforts and take them to the next level, with bold action and with a greater focus on oversight to ensure the best use of your hard-earned tax dollars. As we live by the county's motto, Gardes Bien, to guard well, transparency and accountability will be our governing doctrine. We will work to move our shared priorities forward, abandoning what doesn't work, embracing opportunities to innovate, and collaborating with our nonprofit, state, and federal partners to leverage resources so we can best support the common good together. We will redouble our efforts to address our housing crisis, to make sure our residents are healthy, housed, and have access to quality jobs, transit, and educational opportunities. As we plan for a sustainable future for our youngest residents, we must also respond to the needs of our older residents. That starts with delivering on our efforts to make universal early child care a reality in Montgomery County. More than 1 year after creating an early child care and coordinating entity, and nearly 5 years after the Early Care and Education Initiative was launched, quality early child care and education is more important than ever. It's a moral imperative and an economic imperative, and we need to move forward together. On the other end of the spectrum, we will uplift the fastest growing segment of our population, our older adults, so we can fulfill our capabilities as a county of vital aging and a community in Montgomery County for a lifetime. We took a significant first step this week with the introduction of a targeted older adult property tax credit. We also understand that none of these priorities are possible unless we can afford to fund them. And that requires a thriving private sector economy with a diverse and purpose-driven talent pool, unrivaled public and private assets, and the best community partners anywhere. Those of you here in this room. I know we have what's needed to emerge in Montgomery County as a regional and global economic powerhouse. As we work to grow a thriving economy, we want to make sure that everyone in our community can benefit from it. All of us in this room understand educational opportunities and transportation are the great equalizers. We will focus on maintaining a world-class public school system that has been the foundation of our strength and success over the years, and building a modern transportation network that connects residents to jobs and services. Half of our $6.7 billion budget goes to schools, as it should. But with unprecedented needs and finite resources, we must make sure that every dollar is put to its best use to serve our greatest needs. The stakes have never been higher, and we are committed to meeting this critical moment in public education together. As we invest at record levels, we must also ensure accountability to achieve that success. We will work collaboratively with state partners and the Board of Education to provide accountability for investments in educational outcomes for all our students. Last year, we added 2 new Inspector General positions dedicated exclusively to Montgomery County Public Schools. And additionally, during my first week as Council President, we commissioned the Office of Legislative Oversight to review and analyze all existing reports, analyze gaps in reporting requirements, and determine best practices to improve financial management, budgeting, and performance metrics. When it comes to transportation, we're all very concerned with the proposed $3.3 billion in wide-ranging cuts to Maryland's 6-year transportation plan. This poses a devastating blow to key transportation priorities, including local bus service, and threatens progress on economic development, on equity, and on environmental sustainability. Choking off transportation funding to counties will leave behind many of our most vulnerable residents on the side of the road. Montgomery County has made substantial gains in bus service, and our residents rely on public transportation. They need it to get to their jobs, their classes, their medical appointments, and community services. Access to affordable transportation is also part of our racial equity and social justice agenda. We must continue the progress on transportation. The initial proposal from the Moore-Miller administration shows a $94 million hit to transportation in Montgomery County, including $17.4 million in cuts to ride-on service. I fully recognize that these proposed cuts are not value judgments. They're part of a broader, more significant budget challenge that the administration is facing that has been compounding over the years and has been inherited. We greatly value our partnership, and it's my sincere hope that we can work collaboratively with the governor, his administration, and our Montgomery County delegation to develop ways to fully fund bus service and critical transportation priorities without balancing the budget on the backs of counties or in new taxes to our residents. Maryland stepping up first to maintain its multi-year investments in WMATA serves as a hopeful sign, as Metro is the backbone of our regional transportation network that fuels the economic engine of the national capital area. But Metro will never meet its ridership goals without reliable, high-quality local bus service to connect residents to it. Montgomery County creates 22% of Maryland's tax revenues, so we need to ensure that we get a proportionate share of state resources to prime the pump of Montgomery County, which is Maryland's economic engine. I hope you will join me in calling on state leaders to avoid devastating cuts to ride-on bus service and highway user revenues, and to fund all of our local transportation priorities without shifting the burden to the counties. Thank you again for joining us this morning and for your contributions to our incredible community. I know that by working together, we will continue to accomplish great things in the year ahead for Montgomery County and for Maryland. Happy holidays, and let's work together to make sure 2024 is our best year yet. Thank you so much.
Okay, before we introduce our next speaker, I want to take this opportunity to also recognize our education leaders that are in the audience today. Dr. Monetha McKnight, MCPS Superintendent. Dr. Jermaine Williams, President of Montgomery College. He's right there. And Dr. Ann Kademian, Executive Director of the Universities of Shady Grove. Great. Next, I want to welcome to the stage State Senator Kramer.
Thank you. All righty then, good morning. I know we're running a little bit behind time, but that's not my fault, so. I'm Ben Kramer, and I bring greetings from the 9 senators who represent Montgomery County to our Maryland General Assembly. And real fast, I know a lot of them were here earlier. If my Senate colleagues are still here, stand up real fast, please. They are a very talented team and doing an outstanding job for Montgomery County. And we do have a very capable delegation, both House and Senate, and you'll hear from my House colleague very shortly. We will be heading into the 2024 legislative session next month. There's a lot of work ahead of us. For those of us who live or work in Montgomery County, or both, we're very fortunate to be located where we have an outstanding school system, a vibrant economy, efficient and affordable public transportation, a strong healthcare system, outstanding public employees. Let's hear it for our public employees. And robust nonprofit and religious institutions that help bolster our services to our residents in need of assistance. Just the same, once again, we have a lot of work to do, and there are significant challenges ahead of us. As you just heard, we learned last week that there are going to be significant state cuts to transportation infrastructure. We need to thoroughly analyze the impact on Montgomery County and its effect on our transportation, road networks, and quality of life. With the largest school system in the state, with more students eligible for free and reduced meals here in Montgomery County than 20 other jurisdictions in the state have in their entire student population, we have financial needs right here in Montgomery County that we have to have the state meet. We are not immune to the crime problems that have plagued neighboring jurisdictions, and when our residents feel unsafe, that reverberates into many quality of life issues, and our economic well-being is jeopardized. We have done considerable work on social justice issues and criminal justice issues, but there's more work to be done. And we must ensure that our women and men in law enforcement know that their service and their courage is valued and appreciated. Last week, Delegate Polakovich-Carr, who you'll hear from shortly, and I had the opportunity to present Montgomery County's list of priority needs to the governor. We emphasized that the list was modest for a county of our size, yet very important to us to ensure that every item on that list is addressed and funded. We need to regularly remind our colleagues from around the state and the governor, as you heard a moment ago, that as the economic engine of the state, if we're going to keep running on all 8 cylinders, we need the fuel to keep doing so. Nearly 1/4 of general fund tax revenues originate from right here in Montgomery County, and we don't have the luxury of being shy about discussing the importance of that and our expectations in return. My colleagues and I stand ready to partner with our local elected officials to improve the business climate in the county and the state. We should work to streamline regulations so that business can be a partner in helping to grow our business community and so that government does not stifle our business community. The commercial tax base is critical to funding government initiatives, and we can't expect business to be the financial source for all of our social needs just because that's the path of least resistance. Finally, I mentioned last year at this event, and it's a common theme that we have heard this morning, we must do more to address the ever-pervasive hate that is spreading like a cancer through our community. We made significant strides last session in the legislature, but there is still work to be done. Anti-Semitism, more appropriately described as Jew hate, is rampant. If we are to achieve any meaningful steps in reducing racism, Islamophobia, and yes, Jew hate and violence against our LGBTQ community, we must educate. Too many people, particularly young people, are getting their information from the crap on social media. We need parents, neighbors, and community leaders to help and assist and support our teachers in the classroom. Our teachers are critical to the future, and we must show them that they are highly valued and highly appreciated. So if you're affiliated with K through 12 education or Montgomery College or the universities at Shady Grove, thank you. Your work, your efforts are not lost on us. With that, I wish everyone the very best for a very happy holiday season and the best for the year to come. Thank you all.
Thank you, Senator Ben Cramer. Now I'd like to welcome Delegate Julia Paklovich Carr, the chair of Montgomery County's House Delegation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Polakovich Carr. I chair the Montgomery County House Delegation. We are 26 members strong, the largest delegation in the General Assembly. And if my colleagues who are still here could stand up so we can give them another hand. Leave the delegates still in the room. And Senator Cramer mentioned it for the senators, but I will echo it is true for our House members too, a very smart, capable group of colleagues, and I'm incredibly proud to get to work with them again this session on our delegations and counties' priorities. So as I think back over this last year, I think we have a lot to be proud of in terms of state government. Congressman Trone mentioned earlier about kind of the lack of progress at the federal level, but thankfully that is not true for our state government. We have really seen the benefits and the payouts of the partnership over this past year between the legislature, Governor Moore, Lieutenant Governor Miller, Comptroller Learman, and the entire state government. Last session, we made progress on many, many important issues, from protecting reproductive rights, gun control, investing in education, and more investments in our very lowest income working families in this state. And I'm very proud, all of our colleagues are very proud of the work that we've been able to get done. But as has been mentioned here today, there are a number of challenges facing us for this upcoming session. There's been several remarks about the transportation cuts, $3 billion in cuts to transportation funding statewide, including many impacts here in Montgomery County. And I think for many of us, really the cuts to public transit are especially troubling. We know that many Montgomery County residents rely on bus, on metro, on MARC train service to get to work, to get to education opportunities at Montgomery College and the universities at Shady Grove. So the delegation stands ready and in fact has already been advocating to restore these cuts to make sure that our residents, our employees can continue to get around and to do so in an environmentally sustainable way. So looking ahead to the upcoming session, I think we have a lot of promise of potential for what can happen, but we have to keep in mind where the state's fiscal situation is at. And I have full faith in my colleagues who serve on the Appropriations Committee and Budget and Tax Committee that they'll be able to handle the state's fiscal challenges and really the anemic growth that we're seeing in terms of state revenues in a way that don't impact our existing services too greatly. But I think the big challenge will be that a lot of people come forward with new ideas in a legislative session, and we're going to have finite ability to take on new initiatives, to implement new programs, especially costly ones. So keep that all in mind. I know many of you advocate and come to Annapolis, and we very much appreciate that, but just keep in mind where our state's fiscal situation is at. But we very much look forward to addressing the pressing issues that came up today. Thank you to Ken for presenting the priorities for the Committee for Montgomery today. Great list of issues, and I actually really believe that on every one of those, I can think of members of our delegation in the House and Senate who are leaders on those issues, and I think you'll see legislators from Montgomery County continuing to lead on those fronts. So let me just finish with a point of personal privilege and lift up the need around affordable housing. Montgomery County is 25,000 affordable housing units short now. That's a need that's only growing. Big kudos to our county executive and county council who've been taking a number of important steps on that front. This really is an issue that is at a crisis point. We need our elected officials at every level of government working to address this issue. The delegation this year, we have several bills that are working our way through our House delegation currently on terms of addressing affordable housing, but this is an issue near and dear to my heart that I hope will make significant progress on this year. So with that, thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you so much. At this time, I'm turning the program over to Steve Simon, the chair of today's breakfast. And if I don't get to say goodbye to you guys, I'm heading out of here right at 9:30 to get to my daughter's holiday concert. She's only 3. She'd be devastated if I was not there in time. But it's been a pleasure to be here and be your MC so far today.
Give Shannon a big round of applause. And smile, keep smiling for the photo. Get in here, Shannon. All right.
There we go.
Thank you, Shannon. All right, let me get my speech out here. I promise this is a short part. Can I get my panelists up here, if they're still here? Get all my panelists in the seats. If I had to give a word, you guys heard a lot of words today. If I had to give my word, it was pivot. We pivoted a few times, but we ended up with a really wonderful panel. I think the important thing here when you come to these events is to learn. And by the way, learn, I want to thank my organization. I'm part of the universities at Shady Grove. It's really an honor to work there. And you're going to really have a chance to learn today about the issues coming up in Annapolis this session and what goes on. We have some of the people who really keep their eye the closest on what happens in the State House. So as they're all getting settled, I'm going to introduce. First, she's shaking hands over there, but if you read your Washington Post, of course you do, and formerly of the Baltimore Sun, right? I mean, Erin Cox, please give her a round of applause. To the middle, Will Ford of Maryland Matters, and you're going to hear more about Maryland Matters. And of course, the ever-famous Lou Peck of MoCo 360 and Bethesda Magazine. And I'm going to turn the program over now to get the conversation started by a sort of a legend, the original Josh Kurtz, for people who are following the state and have all this. We have a secretary, I think, now. The original Josh Kurtz, the founding editor of Maryland Matters. And take it away, Josh.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everybody. Greetings to all current elected officials, former elected officials, and wannabe elected officials in the audience, which I think covers everybody. So good morning to all of you. As Steve mentioned, you know, you were probably expecting a panel discussion with one or a couple of elected officials. We don't have the star power of Wes Moore or Brooke Learman or Aruna Miller, but you know, you'll get a lot more candor, I think, out of this group. So there's that, and collectively we have about 400 years of covering politics, so you can benefit from that. Well, something like that. My math could be off. Anyway, thanks so much for having us. And we are going to talk about the session and some of what's going on in the state. But I thought it would be useful to start, actually, for all of us to kind of just talk about our thoughts about the new administration and the new governor, and that will enable us to kind of pivot into sort of the challenges he's facing in his second year. But I mean, we've had this, we have this very talented, smart, charismatic, empathetic guy as governor now with really an ability to connect with just about any audience. And he's got a legislature that's, really rooting for him and invested in his success and his agenda. But, you're starting to hear now people wondering, like, when's he going to start, really rolling up his sleeves and governing? And, when's he going to stop doing TED Talks and being on MSNBC and, really pay attention to the problems in state government? There's the famous Mike Tyson expression, everybody has a plan until they're punched in the nose. And I think now the governor may be encountering that. So I don't know, I was just going to ask all of our folks, maybe starting with Lou and moving down, just sort of quick impressions of the new governor and the new administration, and then we'll pivot to a talk about money, since we all seem to be obsessed with that, understandably. So, Lou.
Okay. I think my microphone is on. If it's not, my voice does carry. I'm going to be brief because, unlike my colleagues here, I do not spend the session in Annapolis, and so I did not see the governor really at close range in his first year. I was here in Montgomery County, obviously, in the run-up to the 2022 election, and it's no secret that the lion's share of the primary vote in this county did not go to the incumbent. That being said, I've heard feedback from a lot of people who I know did not vote for the incumbent in the 2022 primary, generally positive feedback. I was interested recently in a poll showing him for a Democrat with fairly high approval ratings among Republicans. So it's obviously been a good first year, but as Josh alludes to, the honeymoon may be coming to an end between the transportation budget in particular and the overall revenue picture. So, Will?
Will? Morning. When Westmore walks in a room, Governor Westmore, it is almost like a mini concert. People stand, people look, they applaud, and there's some history with that, because how many African Americans have been governor?
3.
Thank you, Aaron.
No problem.
How many are in office now?
Just the one.
So that's why I wanted to put some context with it, because people are actually really excited. They just are, because it's something no one has ever seen before. But now it comes to governing. Give one example. In September, the governor came to Bowie State and he announced an MBE ombudsman to help small, minority, and women-owned businesses. Who would not want that? But the question is, where is the ombudsman? It's a fair question. He's not sitting here yelling or calling names. Where's the ombudsman? And if you step back to look at the MBE goals that still have not been reached. Now, that goes back to the Governor Hogan administration. I mean, be very clear. Like I said, context. It's just the fact of the reality. But some people want this ombudsman now because there's been small, Black, Latino, and women-owned businesses who have been waiting for their fair share of state contracts.
At the risk of repeating what my colleagues have said here, I don't think there's anybody who spends much time with Westmore and doesn't see him as a singular political talent, right? That man can work a room, that man can deliver a speech, that man can inspire people. And I think, with Westmore, the question has always been, what can he do with that? Can he deliver, right? And so you come into office with soaring expectations and some pretty soaring promises, right? I mean, this is somebody who talked about closing the racial wealth gap, right? Like, that's not a one-year project, right? Ending child poverty. He has set himself up with some exceptionally high expectations, which, in fairness, might have accompanied him anyway, even if he didn't set them up. So, I mean, I think you from my perspective, I've seen somebody who has stepped into his talent and really spent an entire year building capital, political capital, and now he faces this moment, which I think Josh is going to pivot to in a second, where he has to see what that's going to get him, and how he can use his political talent when he has to tell, the county that generates, 1 out of 5 every tax dollars that maybe they can't have what they want. So. I think the next couple of months are kind of a real test of what Wes Moore can do with the gifts that he has.
Well, I mean, we've heard today from our speakers, I mean, there's this freak out now, understandably, about particularly transportation, and I will say, hey, I took the metro here. I don't know about most of you, but, and, education spending and stuff like that. Aaron, talk about sort of the scope of the problem and some of what's being discussed to tackle this.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of you guys are elected officials, so I'm not telling you anything you haven't told me, and I'm now repeating back to you. But, Maryland has had this issue for, 20 years, that the ambition of the state doesn't match the money that we have to pay for it. And so every year there's some sort of shuffle about how we're going to do it. What seems different to me in this moment is a massive reframing of that conversation to say that we're not going to keep doing that, right? That, Wes Moore not only needs that political capital he built up, but he needs financial capital. And, there's no way to get that without doing things differently. And so I think what is different about this moment to me is that the conversations I'm hearing are much different than in the past, right? That this isn't a short-term situation, that this is a fundamentally different way to look at what's been, a long-term problem. So, the conversations that I'm hearing about people looking to do a millionaire's tax or change the estate tax or fundamentally change the corporate income tax, those I hear louder, more forcefully, more organized than I've ever had before. I mean, that's a conversation that's going to be had repeatedly. Yesterday, Wes Moore's budget secretary, when they gave out, the delightfully dry Board of Revenue estimates meeting, said very clearly that this was going to be disciplined and that they were going to fund things that aligned with their key policy goals, which, if you've been to a lot of these meetings, that is really code for watch what we're going to do, right? So, I mean, I think that it's interesting to me in terms of the governor, how he's going to be able to message this, how he's going to be able to deliver kind of a tough medicine message here that, these are our shared values, but these are the values that are higher priorities, and how he's going to execute that. And, from my perspective, it's an interesting open question about whether, the ability to kind of dazzle people really works when you're looking at a balance sheet that doesn't dazzle anybody.
That's a great way to put it, I think. And I think you heard County Executive Elrich this morning say he would like the state to give local governments the authority to raise taxes for transportation. I think there's a real question about whether there's the political will in Annapolis, even with a Democratic governor, even with Democratic supermajorities, to raise taxes, or even authorize raising taxes. And I think that's going to be a real interesting debate. Governor Moore's approval ratings are very close to Larry Hogan approval ratings, and we know those were sky high. And I'm wondering if he's going to be willing to risk some of that political capital to do some of the tough work. Let's talk for a minute about one of the big funding priorities. We heard a little bit about it today, which is the blueprint for the big education reform plan. This is something Will has been covering has really drilled down deep into. Will, there's funding questions, of course, but there are sort of still operational questions about how this is all going to work. So where are we right now?
Some educators would like to know too. Let's be frank here. There's a few educators I've talked to. They know how to teach. They know how to work with children. They know how to get the best out of a child. The blueprint is literally transforming how you educate a child and also ensuring a bunch of other little buckets of making sure there's teachers of color who look like the students that are coming into the buildings. Let's start there. But there's one major question that quite a number of jurisdictions have. How are we going to pay for it? I'm sorry, there's people who have yelled at me like that. I'm not a politician. I only know how to budget a checkbook. Oops, I'm dating myself here. But it's a valid question because there's some funding that may not be available through 2032. So how will it be paid for? Exactly. But as Dr., and I don't usually name drop, but Dr. Britt Kerwin, and a lot of people in this room know who he is. He's a major education leader. A lot of folks nationwide have talked about him and how the blueprint is a once-in-a-generation type of change to boost and improve education. In the classroom, you're going to see children just, their eyes are bright, they're willing to learn, they're excited. But you got to be able to match some of the funding with that. That's a challenge.
Well, one thing I forgot to say about sort of whether, on the question of whether there's political will to raise taxes, is sort of traditionally, at least in the 25 years I've been watching things, usually the second year of a legislative term is the time when the legislators say, okay, we can stomach a tax increase this time around because, you know, things may get better in the next year. There may be evidence that our tough solutions are working. But I'm not sure what happens if that doesn't happen in this upcoming legislative session. Lou, I know you're not following sort of chapter and verse these debates, but kind of, you know, sort of big picture, where, I mean, what are you hearing about sort of the legislature's ability to tackle some of this?
Well, I mean, clearly there's my recollection going back almost 10 years when I first came onto the scene here covering this was Martin O'Malley was in office, and as you recall, felt the need in 2012 in the wake of the Great Recession to raise tax rates. In hindsight, he was praised for making them more progressive, but there was clearly resistance from Montgomery at that time, and I think part of that was what Senator Kramer alluded to earlier. Montgomery already is responsible for a large chunk of the revenue into the general fund, and clearly people saw it, Montgomery again being hit, taking the lion's share of the hit. You know, that all being said, I think something's got to give in the way of fee, tax increases, whatever you want to term them. Particularly in an area like transportation. I know, talking to members of the Montgomery delegation, obviously the largest in the General Assembly, somebody, I think Julie Vlackovich-Carr noted 35 members at the moment. That delegation clearly has a very high priority, and as do, I'm sure, Prince George's and some of the other surrounding counties in terms of preventing some of these rather catastrophic cuts to Metro that have been talked about. I guess sort of the good news here is that I interviewed Bill Ferguson when he was in Montgomery a couple of, about a month ago. And I should have, for those who don't know, Bill Ferguson is actually a Rockville native and went to Georgetown Prep just down the road. So there's a certain amount of, if you will, hometown loyalty he has, even though he represents a Baltimore district. And he was very upbeat in terms of the prospects for finding money to prevent these kinds of cuts. And obviously at the time, while some of the specifics that we've seen in the transportation budget recently hadn't come out, he was well aware that we were looking at a yawning gap, $2 billion plus in terms of the capital section of the Transportation Trust Fund. So that being said, you know, there is the challenge. He made it clear that if that was going to happen, it had to be in concert with D.C. and in Virginia, where there's a governor who arguably is less sympathetic to Metro than Governor Moore might be. It comes into the issue of to what degree the federal government is going to pony up in operating funds. They ponied up capital funds for Metro in the past, but clearly the argument is that the federal government depends very heavily on Metro. And of course, the looming issue, and when I talked to Senate President Ferguson, he seemed fairly confident that in the not too distant future, we'd start to see ridership on Metro increase again. This is sort of the $64,000 question, to what degree people are really going to get onto the train and back to their offices, or to what degree the situation that we saw during the pandemic is going to stay. People are going to work from remotely, and you're not going to see that kind of upswing in ridership. So.
One interesting dynamic, just when we're thinking about the fiscal situation, one interesting dynamic in Annapolis is that for the last 8 years, the Democrats who run the show in the House and Senate have basically been used to doing whatever they want, and have largely ignored Governor Hogan to the extent that they could. I think this time it's a little more of a delicate dance because, you know, they're invested in Governor Moore's success. They want to work hand in hand with him, but I mean, there may be a breaking point where if they perceive that he isn't being aggressive enough or progressive enough, they may try to take matters into their own hands. And I think this is a dynamic, a sort of underrated dynamic that we need to be aware of.
Yeah, and on top of that, the legislators have managed to secure more power for themselves too, right? So we have, from a big picture situation, we have an education plan that everybody loves that there's not enough money for. There's transportation projects that everybody loves that there's not enough money for. There's a climate change agenda that everybody loves that there's not enough money for.
I don't think there's going to be money for, yeah.
Yeah, and also you have, you know, lawmakers have a lot more budgeting power than they ever have. They have a lot more negotiating muscle than they ever had before. So, you know, you have these shared values, but I mean, at some point we're going to have, you know, the state will have to decide, and then the lawmakers will have to decide, do we shrink our ambition, do we delay our ambition, or do we pay for our ambition? And the extent to which, you know, people try to answer that, I think will be the big theme of next year.
Yeah. We have between 4 and 5 minutes, unfortunately. We could talk about fiscal stuff all day long and be sort of fascinated, and thank you, Rich Madaleno, yes, fascinated and depressed and what have you. But let's get into a couple of other issues that are likely to be pretty dominant in the session. One is crime and juvenile crime. Will, you've been following some of that. What's likely to happen?
Well, for those who may not know, you have a senator in Will Smith, Jr., who chairs the JPR committee. So that is a bonus in the cap for Montgomery County. Juvenile justice, we could go on, but you have several individuals here are parents, maybe a few grandparents. You have nieces, you have nephews, cousins, children you care about. Most civilized individuals want the best for children. But there's a word yesterday that was used by neighboring State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy and Baltimore State's Attorney Ivan Bates used: accountability. And the accountability piece comes a little bit in head-to-head with progressive thinking. That the progressive thinking, we can't have our babies inside a cage. We can't have our babies trapped inside a cell. They need more reform. We need to help teach and reach them more. But then you have the middle ground. We all love children. But if you know you did wrong, you need to pay the consequences. That's where the discussion is going to come in, and healthy debate. What's the accountability look like? What will be consequences you put in policy? There's people around the nation are still trying to figure that out, but we're in Maryland, so we'll talk about Maryland. Yes, juvenile justice is a big deal, and being in Montgomery County, representing the DMV, as the young people call it, I say the DC area, but it's okay. Call it what you want. The fact of the matter is there has been some seen in our young people who have done a lot of unfortunate, wrong things that's going on.
Can I read some statistics I pulled out of one of your stories?
You may go right ahead.
Thank you very much. So this is from a September Department of Juvenile Services. You can read about it at Maryland Matters, marylandmatters.org. In 2013, there were 41 non-fatal shootings by juveniles, so 41. Last year, that number is 171, 41 to 171. Homicides, in 2013, there were 20 juveniles were involved in 29 homicides. Last year, that's 47. So we're looking at like a wave of juvenile crime that is kind of eye-popping when you see over the past decade what has happened. I mean, and the reasons behind that, you know, you can go deep on. There's a COVID generation, any number of reasons why we're seeing the violence among kids. But to Will's point, it's kind of reached a point that everybody just feels like it's intolerable. And this question of how do we hold children accountable is, I didn't mean to go.
No,
you go ahead, man.
You're
You go
fine.
ahead.
I'm going to be almost done. But look for, and if you didn't see it, look for what State's Attorney Boy and State's Attorney Bates put out. It could be something, if there's any lawyers/attorneys in the room, take a look at it, because it may be something you've talked about already. And there may be a few lawmakers in here who may ask you to come and testify.
I should point out State's Attorney McCarthy is here in the front row. So we literally have like 30 seconds, and as I look out over this audience, I can't help but note that 40% of the state lawmakers from Montgomery County originally got their seats through the appointment process. Lou, is this the year that that's going to actually change?
We're not saying you didn't deserve it, by the way.
It could be. I wouldn't bet. If I still had a mortgage, I'm not sure I'd bet it on it. But clearly, Josh, as you allude to the fact, there are 40% of the current Montgomery County delegation who were appointed. 15% of the entire delegation was appointed just this past year due to changes because of Governor Moore's appointments to his administration. And I think there's a lot of energy behind this issue, in part because there are going to be several people who are going to spend almost 4 years in office without facing the voters. That being, and I think there's some other factors that are particularly motivating Montgomery County. That being said, I think there are certain other potential roadblocks. One is the question of how interested the rest of the state is, who has not been as affected by this issue, where delegates from other places are going to want to go to some kind of special election or modified special election system. And so I think that, and there's also the other major thing is that a proposal that was, I think, originally pushed by Senator Brian Feldman, who I saw out here, is here, and David Moon, and I think is now being pushed by Delegate Linda Foley, who I saw over in one of the tables over there, and that is to at least come up with a modified system where you would have delegates who are appointed more than 2 years out stand for a special election in conjunction with the presidential election, which is normally not a state election year, so they wouldn't be sitting there for 4 years without facing the voters. That proposal went through the Senate unanimously twice and never went out of House committee. And I think that's a function of the fact that there are some members of the Black Caucus in the House who are leery about the proposal from the standpoint of whether it affects diversity and the chance for people of color to achieve seats. So the question becomes, I think, to some degree, what some of the leading House members, including the Speaker potentially, are willing to do. Senator Ferguson, as Josh and I know, has gone on record a couple of times as saying that he feels he's behind a move to at least, make some incremental change in this system.
They're bringing the hook. We have more to talk about, but we gotta go.
You
Thanks
can buy
to my
us a
friends
drink,
here.
and we'll tell you
Thanks for
when.
listening.
Thank you.
If you want to hear more, you just have to read their publications. Thank you, Aaron from the Washington Post. Thank you, Will and Josh from Maryland Matters. And MoCo 360, we're being covered by MoCo 360, so that's where you get more if you want more from today. And so thank you, everybody, for being with us. Happy holidays. And to build on what my colleague Ken Nelson said earlier, get ready in the session to rock the House, but also the Senate. Okay? Get ready, Montgomery County. Thank you. Thanks, Scott.